So, tell me a little, my routine now, by now,
Yeah, my name is Artemi. I've been playing the guitar for many years. We've done some breaks. So I started when I was 14 years old. And so I started practicing regularly maybe 4 or 5 years. So and I know nothing about acoustic.
Yes, so we'll talk now about, right now about that. I noticed an accent where you from. Russian, здравствуйте. Как дела? I learned Russian in school in Cuba. They made us.
I tried to study Spanish.
Yes, okay, there you go. Yes. So, tango.
Yes.
You know actually where the tango came from?
Argentina?
Yes, correct. And before that?
Spain.
No. Cuba. Tango is look, the tango club, well, just because you asked about it, I'm going to do a brief survey of that. The Habanera rhythm. This was 1801, the first Habanera. Habanera, tu volanta, eres una flor que canta, pam, pa, pim, pam, 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 piriti, tam, pam, pam. So in the tango, what they did, in the Habanera you have pam, pa, tam, pam, pam, pa, pam, pa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the tango, they tied the 2 and the third. 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. So I will interchange it, so you notice. Habanera, ti, ta, tam, habanera, ti, ta. And that is the milonga rhythm. Pa, 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 which is the predecessor of the tango. And then the tango, they deviated from that. And it went back to Havana, and from Havana made it to Spain. So the whole thing that we only got music from Spain into Americas is not completely true. There was a vice versa thing going on for a while. Actually, the saravans from the Baroque suites, do you know where the saravans are from? Mexico. The saravan was actually created in Mexico and went back to Europe and became part of the French, of the Baroque suite as a slow dance. So in the case of tango, pam, pa-dam, pam, pam, pa-dam, pam. So in this tango by Albeniz, he actually does the habanera rhythm. Pam, is this tango? It's not an arrangement he did? Well, I made that. I don't remember now. Like,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
I'm not sure.
because
That's Tarragon, right?
that's Targa, no?
Yeah.
There's an Albeniz tango that goes very similar to that.
Oh,
And I'm trying to remember now what it
that's
is.
not Isaac, it's the other, Mateo.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Mateo Albeniz, yes.
yeah. It's in D
So
major.
this is, going back to the core, it's the Habanera rhythm. Ta, ta, ding, tam, tam. Rim, dee, dum, bum, ding. Bum, bum, dee, 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 dum, bum, ding. One, bum, bum, bum. And it maintains the whole rhythmic pattern. So you have the melodic element and then the rhythmic element within that. So I'm gonna let you play and then we talk. I'll stop you, maybe I'll let you play through. I don't know, depending on how we're doing. Time. I swear there's this very famous tango
It's a D.
that is exactly on that same intro. Re, do, di, bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 da, dum, bum, bum.
The other one is in D major,
Yeah,
the Mateo.
yeah. milonga right there. Habanera. Milonga. Ta, 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 ta. Habanera. That's good. Go ahead. This is exactly habanera rhythm. Split it in between the melody and the bass. Pam, da, dee, pam, pam, da, dee, pam, pam.
Beautiful.
So, do you hear a little bit now, like the difference between tango, habanera, because the accent and is a little bit different. So, so, so you have the B, and then when you do this. So the syncopation changes. Where the stress goes when you actually are aware of tan, ta tan tan tan, ta tan tan milonga, ta tan tan ta ta. Okay? And then that will help make a more clear decision about how to tackle the tight note. Okay? So let's do it again. You're actually intuitively doing also the right things of articulating. So my question is, and this is a very guitaristic thing, 90% of the people do. Why this not short? Why detach that note? I will actually don't make the first note short, long, short, long. Instead of. That's too many subdivisions of that you're not getting the syncopation. Pa, ta, ta, di, pa. So. That helps the phrase a lot better and is more in accordance to the rhythm of the habanera. Yes, you hear many recordings actually to people doing it. And it's kind of embedded like in our listening because you hear guitarists playing that, then immediately you subsequently do it without understanding why are you doing that and if actually you should do that. I like better when it's long, long, dee, dee, da. That makes the landing much better. So long, 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 long. Then. Sorry, I'm out of tune. So let's do that again. And think, even though that you have to do the same fingerings, you still can make that note long.
Yep.
Okay, now, why do you do the last note? Dun, 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 dun. This note, why short? You're cutting it here. See? Yeah. Why cutting it?
Yeah, I listen to Pepe Romero.
I know that. I know, but like that's the thing. When you are stealing ideas, then you are not going through the process that Pepe went to get there. And I understand. It's like, well, you know, if I imitate the best, then it's probably right. There's a partial truth to that. We all need to learn from imitation. When you don't know what to do, then you imitate first, but eventually you need to make your way back into, okay, why am I doing these choices? Because when you're doing someone else's interpretation, I don't know how to describe that. As a listener, I hear that the interpretation is not yours, that you don't own it, because there's something embedded into knowledge, into a knowledge of making a decision a certain way, that when you perform it, it comes out much more succinct and much more deliberate. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
You're correct. Like, Pepe does that. I know that. But like, Pepe does that because Pepe liked it that way or whatever. You know, I'm telling you in the Habanera rhythm, like Tarrega never did. And cut there. It helps the sensuality of the tango. When you're making all short, then it's all too. When you leave longer and short notes, then it sounds a little bit more drunken. Let's say it this way. It's like, and it helps the phrase. Now, in other words, I'm not telling you that what you're doing is wrong. I just urging you to actually do a little bit more of listening of tango, you know, and see how many you see that they do that short note at the very beginning, and then in between there. You know why Pepe cuts this? Because it helps the line and the clarity of this. But you can do the same without cutting so early. Long, sorry, short, right? As I'm gonna play the D instead of that pause is too much.
Okay.
And because this repeats, you can always does it repeat? No, it doesn't quite repeat.
It does.
Here?
Uh,
Yeah, no, within the form it repeats.
Yeah.
So perhaps you can do also that as a way of interpretation, in which you can do the first one, and then the second time. And already you have two different ways of doing the same theme, meaning something different, instead of exactly the same. Do I like what you're doing? Yes. But I know that you're doing it by imitating someone. And you didn't want to, like, because also we have certain stereotypes of what we think the tango can be played. The sample of that is that's what Roland did Tango in the Sky. He wanted to put all the cliches that we think of tango into one piece. It's just full of that. And it's a joke. The whole thing is a joke. So, same thing here. Just listen to some tango, Gardel, early tango, to get you an idea. Listen to how pianists played, like Alicia de la Rocha playing some of the Albanese tangos, and see what they do, you know. So we don't necessarily just keep doing the same thing that all guitarists do and without understanding even why. You will be able to justify your decision rather than saying, oh, that's what Pepe does and I'm just taking ideas. You know, that's a good excuse, but like it's still better if you are more assertive of what you want with the piece, okay? So, having said that, I won't bother you with that at all. Now you can do all the cutting you want. I know you understood what I mean, but I wanted to talk about this part. So we'll do this, and then we'll go to that.
Just that from the beginning.
Yeah, beginning, because it needs to flow that way. That's the syncopation of the tango. The milonga. I mean G clef. You don't do this like ever in the milonga of the tango, like never. So. If anything, I will cut right before I play the second note. So I emphasize the syncopation. Tam, tam, pam, pam, tam, pam. Because in the dance, that's when they do the hip thing, and they go sideways. Tam, tam. So that never goes short. And you do it. So a dancing of tango, when they see that, they wouldn't know what to do with that syncopation, and you're there. It's like, how do I dance that exactly? See what I'm getting at? That's right. No, don't cut, don't cut. And it has also, it gives this feeling of longing. If I could do that, if I do that, if I do that, pam, 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 pam. So it gives a little bit more melancholy to the line. When you do this is very actively rhythmic. So I'm thinking already like drums or something else rather than. Okay? That's okay, yeah? So, what you're doing is okay. Again, it's more like a cliché of habanera you're doing. That's overly short. No, it's not the same non-legato and détaché than staccato. That's a habanera rhythm. Versus this. That creates too much stress here. Non-legato, and then that can go there. That's better. There you go. That's okay, you got the idea. Good, excellent, excellent. Now, before we continue, let's talk about shifting noise here. Yeah, can I have that? Not that. Better. So, again, you can maintain the line on the top and shift. You know how I got obsessed with that? I remember I was playing in a master class when I was a graduate student at Yale. We went to play to Seymour Bernstein, a very famous pianist in New York. And Seymour, I was playing for him Turina Sonata, and he has that whole thing, that whole introduction. He goes, this part. I was, and he was like, what's that noise? I said, what noise? Because it's so embedded into our playing that we don't even notice how much we squeak. It's noise, it's not music. And sometimes we cannot avoid it. But it's a matter of actually of technique. And because you're playing this piece quite well, that's like, so why not like getting you a little bit deeper into the rabbit hole, you know? So, it took me a while. But generally what happens when you're shifting, it's like you're living like an airplane taking off.
Yeah.
So that's the friction, like if you do this. On some guitars you can get this noise just by doing. So, the idea to not get sound is using more like a helicopter going in, but that's not very organic movement. If you do this, out, move, in, just. If you do this, you squeak, okay? So, that's not very organic to go this way. So, what I do is I shift, like if I'm gonna go in this direction, I do this. Then it releases automatically. So I kind of go on the opposite direction and then shift. So. Also, putting the fingers flat, the callus is dry. And when the callus is dry, that's what makes the squeak even much more prominent. So if I do this, play the beginning of your tango, and now I want this finger flat, completely flat, almost like a bar. Go ahead, play now. See, already immediately, a lot less squeaking. See that? Now on top of that, be softer on the shift. If you ever seen the Assad brothers playing, very often they do it, and they lick their fingers when they're playing, which is disgusting, but like, but what they're doing is they're softening the callus. Just play guitar after you take a shower. You squeak a lot less because the callus, the skin that is dry, is moist and it doesn't. And you can do it like that. Some people even put a little bit of Vaseline to help, but that's still happening. So I use this Villalobos Prelude number 4 to practice that. And again, here it's dry, but like if I wet a little bit, or if when I'm playing, just the sweat helps. And these are new basses. So you get less squeak, and I can do with your guitar too. Same thing, you know. It's a matter of technique. Oh, well, he's on the different tuning, so I can do it. Another thing I don't think moving in both directions. I think more like a typewriter and then resetting. So I'm going up, reset, reset. So I'm only thinking we are designed from the outside to the inside, bring things in. So every time that you're doing something the other way, it's always much more difficult. So when I'm doing a shift, even if I have to do both ways, I kind of slide in and then reset. Slide, reset. So when I'm doing that fast, it helps on the shifting. So you can do with almost no squeak. Look at my finger. Look where I'm pressing. Right where there's no callus there. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Why? When the playing is already good enough to go there, it's like, you know, where you go next. Where you go next, you think carefully about your staccatos versus long notes. If what you want to do, and be informed about that. Non-squeaking in the left hand, because it will make it much more enjoyable. For guitars, we all zoom it out because we already know it, that that's part of our instrument. But every other musician will listen to that as noise, you know? Then syncopation, when are you gonna short or not? How are you gonna help to be a little bit more, you know, sensual, not too short on the touch here. And then here, singing more. you do 3, and then 2. I would suggest just 2. Do extension, no extension, extension. So, why? Because he's doing 3 and then changing. When you're doing that, I'm gonna isolate. Can you do a favor for me and put your hand on the first finger? No, in my guitar, in the Bill's guitar. Now you're gonna hear only the second string. Because I'm switching from 3 to 2, I'm not getting the same momentum of volume and vibration on the guitar, and I'm dampening a little bit. If he does 2, see? Much more clear. Now 3 to 2, it gets lower. The secret, if you want to do 3 to 2, is to have second finger behind it. Then it will work. See there? So you can do 2-2 or 3-2, but with the finger behind. If you have the finger in the air and you do that, you're gonna have a good D, but not a very good A B flat. Sorry. See that? And that sinks. Now let's do it with 3. Let's do it with 3, but put 2 behind. There you go. That also works. You see the difference?
Yeah.
And you hear the difference. Good. So now we need to carefully work on the repeated notes. So now the idea behind that staccato is not only because of rhythm. It's when you do that staccato and you have a rhythmic pattern behind articulated, then it helps emphasize the melody on the top. When I was talking to the kid before, I don't remember which one of the two. So when I'm doing this, now all of a sudden I hear that note versus this, then that note gets lost. Let's do that really quick do it now without any bass, just the melody. Now, when you're doing 2 notes on the row, you're accenting ta-ta, the wrong note.
Yeah,
And you do it.
Yeah, I changed my right here back and forth. So at first I played like this and then I changed that and then.
But the logic, when you hear tango, is actually they do. Ding, 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 ta, ta. It's a phrase. So I would do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it feels like a punch on the wrong place. Tam pa pam ta ding ding prang pa pa ta ta goes down. Never towards the downbeat.
For example, I copied the German, because he was saying that. Does that.
That's a mannerism that he's putting in there. Again, and I respect Pepe like tremendously, but this is what's happening. At some point, when you're already a well-established guitarist, you can do whatever the heck you want, in many degrees. Makes it right or wrong, doesn't matter. Many people just start finding ways to keep music fresh. And sometimes when you do some of the things, you can do things that are not necessarily kosher. For example, Desiderio Aniello, playing Asturias. Have you ever heard him play Asturias? Do me a favor and listen to it, and then you'll be like, what? And this guy is an amazing player. You know, he's doing like ridiculous things like, I feel like looking at this phone and find you. Desiderio Aniello, Italian guitarist. Yeah. Yeah. is only the tip of like gentle of what he actually does there. And it's not because he cannot do it straightforward. And he actually plays, he's an amazing player. It's just that he either getting bored and he's trying to do some weird things that sound musically, because, I'm sorry, when you listen to Glenn Gould playing the Bach Goldberg variation when he was 23 and when he was 68, it didn't become ridiculous and he just didn't change to a completely different thing. He just got a little bit more to the core, played a little slower, filled more the intervals, but not start changing everywhere just because you can do it.
And he's always singing.
Yeah.
He's always humming.
You're humming underneath behind it. So you know what I mean? It's like that accent there is wrong. You won't find a single tango that will have that. I guarantee you. You know. Now that doesn't mean that because it repeats that if you actually make a conscious choice, and that's when you come and say like, you know what, tango is right there, but I actually like this, but perhaps I can do it on the repetition. One, ta-da. So you do this first time. Ah. See what I'm getting at? So you can do. It's like a bouncing ball. That goes with the phrase. One, ta, ta. If you sing that, you will now do tan ta 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 ding 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 ta ta. Never.
Maybe a good idea to go back and listen to some Carlos Gardel.
Carlos Gardel. You know.
I think there was a lot of that in Cuban music. The program last night, and a lot of those, like habanera.
See, this time, second time around, I made a little bit of an accent, but it's really not an accent. What I'm doing is a crescendo. So. Do this part. Okay, the same idea of the portamento there. Let me hear that. Let me see. Oh, so you go down. Let me see. Then when you do that, you're calling the D. And that's a no go there. So you're gonna drop, and then do it with the bar. Yeah. See what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So you connect the D. Now it's not very easy to get a good sound on the bar. I know that. So then it's what I would do. Then a different finger here, and that's what I was trying to get at. What you cannot do is cut. That's a mannerism that is like not needed. See there? If I do this 4-3, now you have the third finger guide here for your. Yeah, you work on that. You're like, exactly. Or this, then, and then do the 3-2, and then 4-1. So you can do. What did I say? 3-2. You have 4-1 free, and then that way you are connecting the D to the G and the melodic line.
Should be like, or less, like more gentle.
That portamento, look at that, see that, what it has there? That means that it's fast from the first note. But stylistically, it accommodates.
Yeah.
But that started sounding a little bit like Hawaiians, like key guitar. So you gotta be careful with that. The way it's written, with the eighth note, with the slash across, that means it's fast. There you go. So before we finish, just do from here. You know that it needs to work here, that's no problem. Now, this time is a little bit much more melodic, and the line is crossed. So the tache here, the staccato, not so pronounced. So not so short. Go ahead. This is a typical habanera descending pattern. Like typical. This is a habanera right here. Pretty straightforward.
How do you,
Habanera, like Havana. Like habanera.
so it starts from the one
Yeah, this part is a habanera rhythm. Well, everything is a habanera, really. Like the habanera is the core of everything. It's exactly the same thing. I'm just trying not to be like, you go. I remember when I was a student in Paris, that everything they tried to bring back to Paris, to French music, some way, everything they connected. So I try not to do the same to you, but like, yes, this is pam 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 and two bola. That's the habanera rhythm, which is also tango, because it's based out of the same thing. So one didum pam 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 pam. So this is habanera. Ta 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 ta. This is a milonga or tango, which is a variation of the milonga. This. That's why you don't want to do short. That's the tango right there. And then one taring pam pam. That's the habanera. Pa habanera ting taring pam pam pam. Taring pam pam pam. Taring tam pa habanera and that's also habanera there. It's just a slight variation what they did in Spain to make it slower in some parts, some sections. Just this part needs a little bit more lyricism. That what you were trying to do here. That's why he does that, by making this note longer. It's the same idea that you wanted to do. Is this longer or not? That's what it's reflecting here.
when you go here, you do piano,
I never play this piece. You cannot just, from as I read that I'm doing, just think that I'm gonna do this. I'm just going intuitively, but I'm not making any decisions.
But it sounds like very natural when you.
I agree. That's what I'm doing it because I'm feeling it that way. But before I tell you, yes, you know what, you should play that softer. I'd say first consider all these choices and then you go with what you want to do there. That you need to have the concept again, one more time, the concept very clearly established of what you want to do with the phrase, or what you want to do that. And then the ability to justify with your choices. And that would make your interpretation much more grounded, And then I will hear you, and I will hear like what you're trying to do with someone else's interpretation of the piece. And you're playing quite well. It's just like make sure that you think also, for example, a factor of color. How much flesh versus nails you're gonna do there? Yeah. Then using flesh instead of the same time. getting a little bit creative with the using of, because one of the things that guitar does have that, and I'm gonna say this, and other instrumentalists will kill me for it, but our instrument is one of the few that can actually create very clear color changes, very clearly established. You know, like, of course, the clarinet, all the instruments, they can get dolce, they can get like nice, but here is very, very distinct, and we need to exploit that. And the use of nail versus flesh. Remember also that when Tárrega wrote this was gut strings with flesh, or nail, depending of what, you know, what the player was, you know. So the feeling of gut on the strings, it was completely different sound. You know how I was just in Sheldon early collection. He has one of Tárrega's torres in there, and actually one of his favorite instruments that the viuda, the widow of Tárrega, sell to a girl in Cuba, family, a rich family, and the dad sell to Elias Barreiro, and Elias Barreiro sell them to Sheldon Ehrlich. And they has all the documentation. It's like a bill of sale in each guitar and all of that. So, point of the story is when I actually played that guitar with gut strings, then I realized that the concept, the modern concept of how we played Tárrega, it was impossible in that instrument to be done that way. Tempos, I'm talking about tempos, I'm talking about color and attack and all of that, is because the instrument demands something else. And the gut string demands something else. Oh, entirely different. So what you think that you know from Tárrega's music, from listening to Pepe Romero or any of us modern composers playing on nylon string on different type of instruments that have a different demand sound and volume, etc., has very little to do with what Tárrega did. You can see a video of me playing Adelita on Tárrega's Torres, and I had to change everything. I wanted to play the Gran Jota, and I couldn't do the fast passages that one. Or none of that worked the same way there, and I couldn't attack so aggressively in the instrument. So therefore, the tempos, the pace of life was slower back then. Everything took time. You know, not like us. We get in the car and we're like, you know, when Paganini was touring New Europe, he had to get in a carriage for a whole freaking week before he got to Paris. You know, so the life pace was different. The instrument, the way performing, the breathing, everything was different. And we need to keep that into consideration when interpreting this music, to some degree, or at least be curious about what was done. You know, on other instruments. Other instruments have, like piano, the pedagogy of piano got established a lot sooner than guitar because they have big composers writing for the instrument that actually created a different demand of technique and everything else. Like right now in the United States, there are like 5 different schools thinking of how to play the guitar differently. You have the Romero school, you have the Shearer school, then you have this, you have that, you have me. The idea is that still we need to be familiar with each other's and past build educated present. So when I make a decision of doing this way or that way, then I have a clear intent on the performance. And you actually playing it quite lovely. I listen to this and I say like, well, that sounds pretty. You know, but I don't want to say just some pretty, you know, that sounds deep. It's probably what I would like to go more. Like, you know, I may agree or not agree with what you're doing, but I understand that there's a clear concept behind it, which is what you're doing also with Pepe, but it's Pepe's concept, it's not quite yours, you know. So you need to mold it into something by informing yourself into making some good decisions of what you like better than. And if you end up, and there's a different thing, if you end up to doing exactly the same thing that you're doing now, if you go back to Pepe, but now you have all this information underneath that you went through, so you don't never quite go back to that same point, even if you're performing the same concept of articulation. If you end up on the same decision at the end, now it has a complete background underneath of information of why you arrived there. And then the way you perform that is different. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rene. Thank you, Rene, for the master classes.
Thank you. Thank you all for the patience, for listening, and for coming to the concert, for supporting the guitar.
Where did they go?
It's a great thing.
We're good, we can clean up on Monday.